He said, no, like, he still works for them, he's still got a job. I wonder what his pay packet was. So you know, Pertwee, as I just said, is my favourite, and he had a job working for UNIT, right? So with the Brigadier, Sergeant Benton, we love Benton, and obviously Captain Mike Yates. These are the guys you want backing up. Those three guys there from UNIT, they're who you want backing you up. When you're the doctor, you're going in, they'll come in because you know they can use guns, and Doctor with his martial ninjutsu. Venusian, sorry, it was Venusian, wasn't it? Oh no. That's just it. I've even got Chris in my ear to correcting me. Thanks, mate. So, obviously, what I'd like to do is welcome to the stage the man that we'd all like to back us up there when we go into battle, Captain Mike Yates, Richard Franklin, everybody.
I know how to do it. So if anyone doesn't respond the way I'd like them to respond, I'll do it on you. And it's very painful, I can tell you. Because John Pertwee did it on me, the doctor, did it on me a number of times. We were very good friends. I can take my jacket off. Because this is informal, I want you to relax. I want you to ask whatever you would like to ask. All the things that you've always wanted to know, ask me. And if I don't want to answer, I shan't. Hello? Can you see me at the back? Because I'm very small. I think I'll stand up. I think it's easy. Anyway, you deserve to have someone standing up to talk to you, because thank you very much indeed for coming. And it's my first trip to Australia, and I must say, my impression is very favourable indeed. Not only of you lot, a number of whom I have now met, and the number I have met are consistent with the people I've met in the street, and people I've met all over the place here, which is very friendly indeed. It's a very welcoming place. You seem to be a very relaxed people, and that strikes me immediately. Thank you for that. Good. A question here from some sort of monster, alien. Oh, a very beautiful one.
Oh, thank you.
Daddy's fault.
Who was your favourite, doctor and companion to work with?
Well, it's a very obvious question. My favourite doctor was John Pertwee, and my favourite companion, of course, well, I had two. I had two girls. I had Jo Grant, who I'm still very friendly with, and the lovely Sarah Jane Smith, who sadly is no longer with us. But Liz and Katie are very good mates of mine, were, and so that's my favourite doctor and my favourite companions. However, I have recently done 15 CDs with Tom Baker, and I have hugely high regard for Tom. I think he's an absolutely superb doctor, and he's very funny. He's a very, very intellectually clever man, and he was great fun to work with. Actually, you may have, I don't know whether any of you have heard of the series. They're the Demon's Quest, Serpent's Quest, Hornet's Nest, and they've been proved to be very popular. May I, before I get to the next question, tell you just a little story about how I got that very nice audio series that Audio Go did. It was originally written for the lovely Brit Nick Courtney, and it was intended to be starring Tom Baker, Nicholas Courtney. And very sadly, Nick was too ill to actually record at that time. And he very generously said to Audio Go, ask Richard. And so they rewrote the thing for starring Tom Baker and Richard Franklin. So that was Nick's kind of bequest to me, which I thought was very nice, very generous of him. And of course it's been an absolutely wonderful opportunity for me, because it means that Captain Mike Yates lives again. He never died.
In preparing to come here, I rewatched The Green Death the other day, and your acting in it, you so what's the word? You transition so beautifully from being, brainwashed by the boss and under his willing to working. Was it difficult to, have two different characters in the one episode?
That's, first of all, thank you for the compliment. But secondly, it depends, what changes of character you have to make, and obviously some things are more difficult or more easy than others, depending how close they are. I can't remember finding that a difficult transition, but I'm, what is called a character actor, which means, in the term that we normally use it, that I can and do play lots of parts. At the moment, I'm working in the West End. Actually, I'm understudying, so I only go on if the principal is ill. But I have actually played the part myself in the West End in my own right, and also in Dubai, actually, in a play some of you may have seen called Woman in Black. And it's you've seen it, and it's a very popular play. It's been on for over 25 years. And they change the cast every 9 months. But in that, it's only 2 actors, so we have half the play each. And the character that I play is perfect for me because I come on as one character. As a character who suffered a hell of a trauma in his youth, and he can't get rid of this trauma. He saw a ghost, basically. And so he decides that the way to get rid of the trauma is to speak it out, and to get all his family and close friends and tell them about it and hope to get rid of the problem in his mind. So he employs, for a day, a young actor to show him how to put this across. And the young actor takes one look at the script and says, hey, you can't read this. It's going to take 5 hours and everyone's going to be asleep by the time we finish. But he says, the young actor says, he will play me as the young, traumatized solicitor, and I shall play all the other characters in my own story. So it's an absolute gift of a part for a character actor. And I do all sorts of, I do 6 different characters in the play, which is sort of like up my street. I love it. So the answer is, that's my business.
Hi Richard. I read your interview in Doctor Who magazine recently, and you were talking about the work you did before you went into acting, including assisting in advertising.
Yes.
And I was interested to hear that you indicated that you wrote the lyrics to the Milky Bar Kid.
Yes.
I was wondering if you could tell the audience that we were at that experience.
The final bit of the question, sorry, it wasn't about Milky Bar Kid.
I was just wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about that experience, working in advertising and working for that client in particular.
Yes, well, what's your name?
Damien.
Damien asked me about, if you didn't hear, I was in advertising immediately after leaving Oxford and before I went to RADA to train as an actor. And I worked in this advertising agency and ended up as assistant TV producer and scriptwriter. And one of the scripts that I wrote was for a TV commercial for the Nestle company, the Milky Bar Kid. Anyone had a Milky Bar? Yeah. It's white chocolate. Actually, the concept was evolved by myself and Mike Reynolds, who was the TV producer, and he wrote the first Milky Bar Kid commercial, and I wrote the second one, which was the stagecoach hold up. They were all classic Western, if you remember. They were classic Western themes, and the Milky Bar Kid always comes to the rescue because he is I can't remember the popular now. He eats Milky Bar. Milky Bar keeps the kid strong or something. No, that was an interesting period because how I actually came into the theatre is sort of involved in that. I went to Oxford thinking I was going to read law. When I got there, I decided to read, because my mother's family are legal and political family, and then when I got there, I decided I'd wanted to read philosophy, politics, and economics. I did it for a year, and I discovered that I was dyscalculate and can't add. So I thought economics was not really my scene. And changed to history. And when I came to leave, this may affect some of you, or have affected some of you. I hadn't a clue what I was going to do. I was a bit confused in the mind anyway, and I didn't have the ability to allow myself to know what was really in the pit of my stomach, what was really me, and that didn't come out until an event in my life released it like a cork out of a champagne bottle. But at the time of leaving Oxford, that had all the opportunity of all these jobs in those days, and I didn't know what to choose, but something drove me towards advertising because it was business which sort of satisfied my father. He wasn't really happy for me to do anything except be a doctor, which he was, and it's the last thing I could be, though I admire doctors very much. So I suddenly read this thing about advertising, which was business, say, was sort of respectable, but it was also creative. And when I got into the firm, I then found myself writing TV commercials. I wrote about 14 in the end, but The Milk Bar Kid is probably the most famous one that you've ever heard of. But you know, life is strange, isn't it? Because some people know definitely what they're going to be, and they go for it, and are very successful at it, or happy in it, or whatever. That was the right choice. But I think probably most people sort of really haven't got a clue, and I think you don't need to worry about that. I think you just need to sit back, try lots of things, even if you think it's perhaps not what you'd thought of, and suddenly something will click. Next question. And your name?
The Demons, which was written under a pseudonym, but written by Barry Letts. And did you have any inkling or hints that it was written by someone who knew you guys so well?
Did I know that The Demons was actually written by Barry Letts and not by, what his name was actually? Yeah, Guy Leopold, that's right. No, I had no idea at all. No idea at all. But Barry was the most wonderful producer of Doctor Who. He really was a very, very nice man, very good producer. But his background, you see, was so varied. I mean, he'd been a writer, actor, director, he'd been in the Navy, he was interested in all sorts of other outside interests, and he brought all that into his work. But he was a very kind man. I mean, he had discipline, he knew exactly what he was doing, but he was always very patient with people. And this was really his sort of magnum opus in a way, because, I mean, it was, as you know, I mean, the Demons was an amazing story. It had everything in it. It was one that we all particularly enjoyed, but we didn't know, or at least I didn't know. I don't think anybody else knew to start with that in fact Guy Leopold was Barry.
Sorry.
How much fun was it getting together with John Pertwee again for 5 Doctors?
How much fun was it getting together again with John Pertwee, the 5 Doctors? Yes, oh, absolutely, yes. I know exactly what you mean, yeah. Well, we've never not parted, in a way. I mean, the thing is that one of the things that they say very much about my era in Doctor Who, sort of the unit years, if you like, was that it has a great family feeling. And we were friends out of hours as well as in hours. So, you know, I wasn't totally out of his orbit. But it was great. And of course it's marvellous. Farms in Emmerdale, one left Emmerdale Farm, was to go into the bullpen when Fraser Hines, who played Joe Sugden, was putting drops in the bull's ear. Well, I mean, and discuss business. Well, I mean, that's a pretty silly storyline, I think. But on the actual day, there are several stories about this, so I'll just tell you one. On the actual day, Fraser and I were taken to the set which was an open barn with a sort of tin roof, very, very large, huge barn. And this is not exaggerating. Right in the middle, this straw-covered barn, was a big bull. It was brown and white, and it weighed 2.5 tons. And it was standing in the middle of the barn. Oh, yes. Thank you. That'll be a plug in a moment. And I promise you, it was doing like that with its feet, its tails, lashing backwards and forwards. And I mean, you know, that is the sign that the bull's in a bad temper. And Fraser looked at me, and I looked at Fraser, and we said, no way, we're not playing a scene with that bull, because he had to put the drop in the ear, and I had to go and talk business. So, the stuntmen were called. And the stuntmen looked at each other, and they shook their heads as well. And I mean, it was a very stupid request, honestly, because, make no mistake, bulls can be very dangerous. And so then the vet came in, and he injected the bull in a large fleshy portion of its body, and it fell asleep on my suitcase. But when it woke up, it was as docile as a kitten. And we couldn't get it to do anything, so I just stood there stroking it and all the rest of it. And then it was supposed to change its weight, which is what bulls very often, a lot of farmers get killed this way. The bull will get you up to a wall. Oh, sorry, that's Peter Davis. It will get you up to a wall, and it will just change its weight. And you'll get crushed. And but it wasn't in the mood to do any crushing, it was sort of half asleep. So anyway, then I was crushed, officially. And the story.
Okay, I'm going to ask about your memories of Roger Delgado and the Master.
My memories of Roger Delgado, who played the Master. Well, that was a huge shock for all of us. I'd actually, more or less, left the series of my own, well, I say my own wish. I didn't want to leave because I thoroughly enjoyed it. But I wanted also to get into directing, and I've done a lot of directing, and I got my first opportunity of professionally directing while I was still doing Doctor Who, so I sort of eased myself out. They didn't lose the character, but that's why in some of the later stories I have a bit less to do because I couldn't get to London. The job that I had was actually directing a youth theatre up in the East Riding of Yorkshire. And I did it for 13 months. It was the most challenging and wonderful experience, working on community theatre, community issues with young people, many who weren't sure what they wanted to do, and through the youth theatre, they didn't all become actors. Some became actors, some became writers, professional writers, and so on. But they got to know themselves, which is the wonderful thing about theatre, playing drama games, and vicariously discover who you are and what you like. But I was in the kitchen in my flat in the East Riding of Yorkshire, which is in the north of England, and I had the radio on. I was making a cup of tea, as English people do, and the radio was on, and suddenly the programme was interrupted, and BBC Radio came out with the fact that Roger Delgado had been killed in Turkey while he was still in a break from Doctor Who. I mean, I can remember that moment. It's like the death of Princess Diana. I can remember exactly what I was doing because we were a very close 6-actor team in the John Pertwee years, and one had gone, and that was major. In fact, Roger was a very nice person, very self-contained. I knew him well, but not very well, if you know what I mean. I didn't really get into his under the shell. I sort of didn't need to, and he sort of didn't need to. And he was very happily married, and he went home at night. And he came and was very professional in the day. His script, unlike mine, his scripts were always immaculately neat. As you can imagine from his performance, even that little moustache. in it and everything. It was all absolutely not a hair out of place. His suits were always absolutely immaculate. His car was immaculate. Now this is the irony. He had a little silver Mini, and it was spotless, and he loved this little Mini. A very keen driver. And this is significant because we were filming The Green Death in Wales. And we were filming out at a place called Aberbagoed, which is, I think, means above the bridge with the oak tree and the daisies growing in the field or something. Anyway, we were in Aberbagoed and we were staying in a nice hotel. We'd been out filming during the day. We came back. We went to the desk to get our keys, which we did in those days. And we were just, Roger and I, were just going up to our respective rooms. And the assistant director came rushing through the door and grabbed Roger and said a few words to him and rushed out again. And Roger came to me and I said, "What's all that about?" And Roger said, "Well, you know, we've had a call for 6:30 in the morning." And Roger said that he wanted the call put back to 6 o'clock. And I said, "Well, you know, 6:30 is horrid, and 6 o'clock's horrid, so it honestly doesn't matter to me. But just interested to know why you wanted an earlier call in the early morning to film the next day." And Roger said, "Because I don't trust anybody else driving me in the car, and I don't want a film set driver to be in a hurry. I wanted to take it easy." And of course the irony is that they did hurry, and they went over a ravine. And you know, it's a sad story, but we have fond memories of Roger and his wonderful performance. Nobody has equalled the master since. We've had some very good actors doing it, but Roger was the absolute, I think, the last word.
We have one over here, young man. Over so Richard, to your right.
Over here. Oh yes, right. That's the one with the hole in the top.
Hi Richard. My question relates to what is probably, as my friends might know, Invasion of the Dinosaurs, my favourite Doctor Who story of all time, apart from the monsters. I think the story is absolutely brilliant. And it's an important story in the era of Doctor Who because it was clearly evident that it was the end or the breaking up of UNIT. The Pertwee years coming to an end, Terrance Dicks and Barry Letts moving on, your character finishing up. And from someone who's watched the episode many times, it feels like it was very melancholy during the filming and the acting and so on. Can you elaborate what it was like on that for me, please?
Yeah, that's the day of the invasion of the dinosaurs. Invasion of the dinosaurs. Yes, no, I do remember because of course it has the sequence in which apparently I become a traitor. Well, of course I wasn't a traitor, it's absolute rubbish. But I just wanted the golden age on Earth, don't we all? Melancholy. No, I don't. Well, I think you may actually be right. I mean, I don't remember it as a melancholy experience, but certainly the atmosphere had changed because we were one less, and you know, sort of wheels started dropping off the old car, and so yes, to some extent, I think you are right there.
It's a distinct change in the way Jonathan Nicholas was.
Yes. No, I think you made it right. But the point about this acting thing is it's on lots and lots of different levels, as you know. I mean, it's not just a question of learning the lines and facing the right way to the camera. An awful lot of other psychological sort of levels come into it as well. We fortunately all got on very well, but I mean sometimes you've got to produce a convincing scene with someone who, honestly, you really don't want to be in the same room with. So that's something you have to get over, and you have to have what is called, you know, a professional relationship. Or, of course, it could be the exact opposite. Maybe someone who you're having an affair with, and that can be extremely difficult if you're in a certain sort of scene. But yes, I think there was a general melancholia that obviously you sort of sense the end is nigh. But I was supposed to be killed in that, that was the original thing. Because I think the script writers wanted to have sort of, a quick burst of ratings. So kill Richard Franklin. Exactly. Oh, let's have one. Oh, exactly. That's what we all felt. And I certainly felt it. And actually, it was Barry who said, no. And they had this very nice sort of twist in which I realised the folly of my judgment, my misjudgment, and that the Professor Whittaker and the Golden Age boys were a lot of phonies. And I realised that there's a funny story about this coming up. I realised that the Tyrannosaurus Rex is going to get my good friend, the Doctor. So I rushed forward, and because I know the Doctor's stun gun has been nobbled, because I nobbled it, and so I rushed forward and shoot the dinosaur. But this is just a little sort of tailpiece about BBC generosity and lavish display of their wealth, which actually we see in the new series, but of course we didn't see it in the old series. And they actually only provided one leg for the dinosaur, which I thought was really pretty mean. But the trouble was they didn't tell me which leg it was. I thought it was the front leg, and I'm not going to tell you the conclusion of this story, you just have to use your filthy imagination. But I thought it was the front leg, so I was aiming for under the chin of the dinosaur, and actually it was the back leg. I got him also. Another one? Yeah, the gentleman at the very back.
You never really got to fly off in the TARDIS and battle aliens on a spaceship.
No.
You got just a soldier that found to do something more exciting. Go off with Joe.
I can think of nothing more exciting than to go off with Joe. on a one-way trip in a TARDIS, marvellous, yes, it'd be great. Actually, no, I never went in the TARDIS. I was really upset about that because I'd love to have said that I had been in the TARDIS. In fact, did any of you watch the 50th party on television? Yeah. Most of you, stick up a hand if you saw it, if you watched it. Yeah, okay. Well, what happened was that obviously they had they wrote a special episode, more about that later, and they also filmed this after party. And I think some of us feel that perhaps it could have been more efficiently filmed. But to be fair, it was live television, and people aren't used to live television nowadays. And the link people, got all knotted up in their wires, and they didn't get to the right place at the right time. But the first bit was by a bar. We were all in the bar, and they said, this is going to be an elimination. And we just see who is the last person to remain standing. We're going to ask you a question, and the last person to remain standing sort of wins the competition. It was completely fixed. K9 was going to be the last one standing. So anyway, we don't worry about that. What is the first question? And what had to happen was you sat down and you were out of it as soon as if you got the question wrong. Who was the first person? Was there anyone here? This is all the 26 companions over 50 years. Is there anyone here who has not travelled in the TARDIS? Thank you. You know how to respond. Well, and of course, as soon as I sat down, the two girls, we were all crushed up anyway, the two girls next to me immediately closed in, so no one saw any more of me on the But, anyway, so that was, yeah. Was it?
Actually, asking you about that, was John Leeson in the back reading the lines live for K9? Was John Leeson there?
Yes, he was.
John was there?
Yes, he was there, yes.
Okay.
He was.
That's just because, again, just like...
Yeah, absolutely. No, John was there doing his K9. I love K9, actually. I did a cabaret in Chicago once. I had a stuffed cat, which had nothing to do with Doctor Who. But in fact, what we used to do, we used to have these cabarets, and some conventions have them sometimes. And this was a very big one. I mean, a huge guest list. And we all had to do something, and so I didn't know what to do. So I sang a song, Daddy Wouldn't Buy Me a Bow Wow. So I had this cat under my arm, and it's quite a funny number. Actually, I sold the cat, which is rather a pity. I think in fact, yesterday I was in Victoria Market, and I saw a little kangaroo skin, which actually was extremely good value. I think it was $30, not more than 50, which I think is very cheap for a kangaroo skin. I bet the kangaroo would like to buy it back, actually. But I thought that I might be able to sort of sew it up and stuff it and make it into another cat. Because it's got a long tail. I swing this around my head. I lost track completely. What was that?
So you love canine?
Oh, canines, I love canine. So anyway, I did this this number, which ends up with me swinging the cat round my head and banging on the floor. I love my little cat. I'm very fond of that, but I'd rather have a bow wow wow. Colin Baker then comes on with K9 and accuses me of cat abuse.
Well, Richard, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for this afternoon.
What do you mean it's all we've got time for? No, and on
I'd love to
we've got
continue.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming halfway around the world.
Thank you for asking me, Scott. I mean that.
No, thank
It's
you.
really wonderful. It's the first time I've been to this side of the world, and I'm okay today, but yesterday I was dizzy, and I couldn't think why, and of course I'm upside down.
Ladies and gentlemen, Richard Franklin. I understand you're also an author.
I am, yes I am. I'm very
Oh wow,
serious.
so tell us about what you've written.
Oh well.
How's that for a segue?
Actually, no, I've always been interested in writing. I've written and published sort of poetry, articles, all sorts of stuff. But I've written a Doctor Who book because a lot of you were kind enough to say, what happened to Captain Mike Yates when he left the planet of the spiders? Well, this is a novel, it's a completely new story, invented by me, and it's all about what happened to Captain Mike Yates when he left the planet of the spiders. The thing is that Captain Mike Yates and Richard Franklin are in many ways very close. There are a lot of aspects of Mike Yates and of me which coincide. And other people have said, write an autobiography, and I say, no, nobody wants to read my autobiography. So what I've actually done is I've included some experiences and ideas of my own, about Richard Franklin, and I have credited Mike Yates with these ideas. And for instance, I won't give the whole story away, but it begins at the meditation centre in Chequerdon. Well, I, funnily enough, was actually living there as a small child. So that was rather a coincidence. And then at the end of it, when we all say goodbye, and it's all very tearful, and I go off, retired, I go up and live in North Yorkshire. Well, actually, I do live in North Yorkshire, and funnily enough. And also, I mentioned something of my life up there, and horse racing is one of the things I'm very interested in. And oh, lo and behold, I shared a horse with Fraser Hines. In this, I don't know whether Fraser's actually read the book or not, but
We've got a couple of plane trips, so I'll make sure he reads it.
Right, yeah, do that, yeah, absolutely. But I credited him with winning a Noblinese contest. It was a skirt. So buy the book, it's on sale.
Richard Franklin, everybody.